government of laws and not of men. And as such, in Cebu, there is an existing ordinance which clearly spells out the swab on arrival protocol, and if found negative within 2 or 3 days, may go home to continue their quarantine at home. Holding them beyond the 2 or 3 day period when there is an existing law in the province of Cebu could expose them to possible charges of kidnapping and serious illegal detention, as well as resistance and disobedience to a person in authority or agents of such person. The only reason that you can hold a person inside a hotel is if there is an existing law. The existing law right now in Cebu is that you are tested upon arrival with a negative test result, usually that comes out on the 2nd or 3rd day, then you're allowed to go home. That is the existing law. If hotels will be forced to keep these people in detention until the 10th day, as required by an IATF resolution, then that opens up hotels and even other persons that are not following or are not implementing the provincial ordinance to serious criminal charges. If the kidnapping or detention shall have lasted more than 5 days, this is for serious illegal detention. If it shall have been committed simulating public authority, physical injuries have been inflicted, if the person is kidnapped or detained, shall be a minor, female, or public officer. So that is section 267. What is Article 151 of the revised penal code? Resistance and disobedience to a person in authority. The penalty of arresto mayor and a fine not exceeding 100,000 shall be imposed upon any person who, not being included in the provisions of the preceding articles, shall resist or seriously disobey any person in authority or the agents of such person while engaged in the performance of official duties. The explanation for this is Article 151 of the RPC punishes unjustifiable disobedience of lawful orders of persons in authority or their agents. Now, I, as Chief Executive of the Province of Cebu, am tasked to implement the provincial ordinance, which spells out the protocols for arriving ROFs and OFWs. Otherwise, I may be charged with dereliction of duty. And so that is why, in order to exercise my mandate as a person in authority, but more so, in order to fulfill my commitment that I shall obey all laws, legal orders, and decrees promulgated by the duly constituted authorities of the Republic of the Philippines. And the Provincial Board is a duly constituted authority of the Republic of the Philippines. I am standing by my oath, and it is my duty to see to it that the Provincial Board Ordinance, unless otherwise declared by a proper court and not by a lawyer of the ILG, by a proper court as ultra vires, I shall fulfill my duty of implementing such an ordinance. That is why I have issued Executive Order number 23, reminding the general public and concerned government agencies to implement Cebu Provincial Ordinance number 2021-04 as amended. And so, this executive order, among others, specifically out to Section 105 of the Local Government Code, which gives the Secretary of Health, Chairman of the IATF, temporary control over health operations for a period not exceeding 6 months. It's been over a year. Since last March, when the IATF was first convened by virtue of Executive Order 168, it's been a year and 3 months. In no case shall such control exceed a cumulative period of 6 months. With the concurrence of the local government unit concerned, the period for such direct national control and supervision may be further extended. As I had said in my earlier press conferences, this is not to say that we shall not listen to what the IATF may recommend. In fact, that is why I have invited the IATF over to Cebu to present their data, their rationale, their science to the provincial board. But then, in the end, as mandated by the local government code, it is the local government unit that has to decide, because we, above all, must uphold the general welfare of our own constituents as contained under the General Welfare Clause. So we may either concur or not. But that is what local autonomy is all about. And unless the local government code is then again set aside by a proper court or any provision thereof, it is still the obtaining law of the land. Whereas Section 25, Article 2, Sections 2 and 3, Article 10 of the 1987 Constitution sets local autonomy as a policy of the state. To wit, Section 25, the state shall ensure the autonomy of local governments. Section 2 of Article 10, the territorial and political subdivisions shall enjoy local autonomy. And whereas Section 2 of the Local Government Code reiterates the policy of local autonomy, states, it is hereby declared the policy of the state that the territorial and political subdivisions of the state shall enjoy genuine and meaningful local autonomy. Section 16 of the Local Government Code states that every local government unit shall exercise the powers expressly granted, those necessarily implied therefrom, as well as powers necessary, appropriate, or incidental for its efficient and effective governance, and those which are essential to the promotion of the general welfare, so that within their respective territorial jurisdictions, local governments units shall ensure and support, among other things, the preservation and enrichment of culture, promote health and safety, enhance the right of the people to a balanced ecology, encourage and support the development of appropriate and self-reliant scientific and technological capabilities, and more so, enhance economic prosperity and social justice, promote full employment among their residents, and preserve the comfort and convenience of their inhabitants. inside a hotel for 10 days when you have come home for a family emergency, where it's either a loved one has fallen ill or in fact has died. And yet, even though you may already have arrived in your home country, you are not allowed to be with your family. And you have to stay in a hotel room, which, by the way, does not get clean for 10 days. Because how can hotel staff mingle with the quarantine person?
True.
And which for many hotels,
Tama.
beddings and towels are not changed.
Tama.
And therefore, you are subjecting this OFW or ROF to such unhygienic and unsanitary conditions
Tama.
on the insistence of an IATF guideline, which, I'm sorry to say, does not seem to put into the equation human consideration and even budgetary consideration. Section 468 of the LGC defines the powers, duties, and functions of the Sangguniang Panlalawigan. And therefore, it states, the Sangguniang Panlalawigan as the legislative body of the province shall enact ordinances, approve resolutions, and appropriate funds for the general welfare of the province and its inhabitants pursuant to Section 16, that's the General Welfare Clause, in the proper exercise of the corporate powers of the province. It states that the Sangguniang Panlalawigan shall approve ordinances and pass resolutions necessary for an efficient and effective provincial government, and in this connection shall adopt measures to protect the inhabitants of the province from harmful effects of man-made or natural disasters and calamities, to provide relief services and assistance, and their return to productive livelihood.